Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
All right, this is the meeting for the Mobile City Planning Commission for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. I will announce an application for items where no one from the public is attending via Zoom. Staff will give an overview, including any comments received from the public. If a member of the public will attend the meeting, staff will announce their attendance and admit them at this time. Once the parties have joined the meeting, if needed, I will state the commission's rules regarding the number of speakers as well as speaking time. Each application is limited to a maximum of 4 speakers in support and 4 people in opposition, limited to 5 minutes each. I will then announce the beginning of the public hearing. The applicant will present their case and up to 3 additional speakers if applicable. For each speaker at the end of their presentation, I will ask if there are any questions from any commission members. Once the commission concludes their questions of the speakers in support of an application, I will then call for interested parties to speak. At the end of each speaker's presentation, I will again ask if there are any questions from the commission. The applicant will be given an opportunity to rebut in accordance with commission rules, 2 minutes. After the rebuttal, I will declare the public hearing closed and the commission will go into deliberation session. After the commission has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by staff where they can disconnect. I will then call the next agenda item. Commission members and staff, please remember to keep your microphone on mute unless you are speaking to the meeting attendees. Our roll call, myself present, Ms. Jennifer Denson, Mr. Jay Stubbs.
Here.
Ms. Shirley Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Alan Cameron.
Here.
Mr. Taylor Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Matt Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Nick Omberger.
Here.
Ms. Bess Rich. Ms. Susan Carley. And Mr. Kirk Matai. We have a quorum. Is there a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor of adoption of the agenda as submitted?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. We'll begin our meeting with our holdovers. Item 105 North Jackson Street, the planning approval. I'm recused. I'll turn it over to Mr. Stubbs.
Thank you, Carlos. Item number 105 North Jackson Street, holdover. We have a number of comments that have come in. Anything from you, Margaret, on staff with update on this item?
Yes, I have entered into the meeting Ms. Kawana Gill, who is the applicant, as well as her legal representation, Mr. Larry Moore. Before they have an opportunity to speak, if I could, I will give an overview of the application as well as the list of names that have submitted emails that have been forwarded to the commission regarding the concerns. The application was first held at the July 15th hearing of the Planning Commission. The staff had recommended holdover for additional information. It was also suggested by the commission that Ms. Gill meet with the neighbors. We also presented to the commission at that meeting, and a copy was provided to Ms. Gill, emails from area property owners or residents voicing their concerns. We provided emails from Deborah Ramsey, Jim Gilbert, Kevin Anderson, and Lucy Coe. No one spoke in opposition. The second hearing was held at the August 5th meeting. Additional information was submitted, but it was well past the deadline and staff was unable to update the report. So the applicant did request a holdover. The applicant at the podium stated she had met with the neighbors, and emails submitted indicate that meeting took place on August 5th. Again, staff provided emails from property owners and area residents voicing their concerns from Ms. Lucy Cope, Jim Gilbert, and Kevin Anderson. No one spoke in opposition. We have forwarded to you today in 2 separate batches emails from area residents or property owners from Sandra Dempsey, Robert J. Isaacson Sr., Mark Minaret, Jim Gilbert, Kevin Anderson, Lucy Cope, Deborah Ramsey, Elizabeth Brooks, Trey Gross, Jonna Rogers, Tim Lloyd, Buffy Donlin, Kevin Anderson, and Lee Wessinger. Again, I have admitted Ms. Gill into the meeting, as well as Larry Moore. It doesn't appear Ms. Gill is still with us. Mr. Moore, can you hear us?
Okay, it was muted. I just
Okay.
unmuted.
Thank you. We can hear you loud and clear. Ms. Gill had called in on her phone, but she is not present in the meeting.
I'm here with Mr. Moore.
She's here. She's sitting next to me.
Awesome. Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have the applicant and her agent in the meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Gill or Mr. Moore, can you do the commission a favor and just speak to us about the plans for 105 North Jackson? I know we've heard it a couple of times, but in short summary.
Yeah. May it please the board. This is a lounge that's being proposed. There were several letters of grievance pertaining to a past club that was there, that was TAG. This has nothing to do with TAG whatsoever. TAG was a club. This is a lounge. Now, some of the protesters to this application have called it a grill. Some kind of way look like they've mistaken Kiwanis Gill, G-I-L-L, to Kiwanis Grill, G-R-I-L-L. And some kind of way they're saying that the club, they call it a club, is to be open from, let's see, like 10 to 4 a.m. That is not the case. I have no idea where that information came from. As Ms. Gill has explained when she was before your podium, she anticipates during the day, Tuesday, just say Tuesday through Friday, from 2 o'clock when she's thinking people are beginning to get off of work, maybe to 11 or 12 o'clock, people come in, they refresh themselves, they have a martini or whatever, they relax. There's television set up, they can watch sports events. They come in, they leave. They come in, they leave. It's not people being 100 in there at one time. She put the 100 in there because Mardi Gras comes up, wedding receptions, special events that occur. She's not set up for parties and all those kind of things. But when they come in, then they go on downtown on Dolphin Street and do whatever they're going to do. It's continuous traffic, not 100 in there at one time at all. As far as the noise is concerned, you got a jukebox in there. You put $1 in there, you play your favorite song there, and that's about it as far as the music is concerned. Now, if there are special events, there may be people coming in and on the upper floor, because there are 2 floors to the building. They may have a party up there, a reception or something like that up there, but that's more of the not the norm. That's the exception. This is basically set up as a lounge. People come in, they refresh themselves, they have a good time, and they leave. As far as this traffic backing up, again, they're going back to Tag, where Tag did. They said Tag was a club and noisy and people all over the streets and stuff and blocking ways. This is a lounge. This is not a club. This is not Tag, and it is not a grill.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there anything further from Ms. Gill from the background?
Yes, like I stated earlier, I did address their concerns via email, and everything that I sent them via were my intentions, my plans. Upon me reading the emails that were sent in today, it seems like some confusion came, like once Mr. Moore stated with the Kiwanis Grill, this is not a grill, food would not be served. As far as noise, I don't want to be in a place that's noisy, so that's not my plans as well. I also don't know where they get any of the information from in the emails, because it's all assumptions, I assume, because it's not anything that I have personally stated that I want for my lounge. It's just, I don't know. They keep comparing me to something I have nothing to do with.
One interesting part about it, Ms. Gill had nothing to do with Tag. There's nothing involving Tag at all. Tag was something like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. For some reason, they're putting all of that what was on Tag on Ms. Gill's new establishment, which she had nothing to do with. She has been open for exactly 0 seconds. There has been no crowds, no nothing there, but they overlaid Tag onto Ms. Gill. There is nothing. This is an entertainment district. This is not the church. They don't go down this down to all these other bars and things down there and complain. But for some reason, for Ms. Gill, there are all of these complaints. But I do think in good and fair equation to the two, they are assuming on a stereotypical basis that this is going to be the same thing as Tag, and this is not Tag.
Thank you, Ms. Gill and Mr. Moore. Margaret, are there any other admittance to the meeting that are in for this proposal?
No, sir. We have provided all of the information that we received as of 11 o'clock this morning, as published on the Planning Commission's website. All comments and registration for the meeting was to be provided by Wednesday at 2. We did start receiving these emails, and as we were able to aggregate them, we went ahead and forwarded everything we had received by 11 this morning. So no one else had signed up to speak.
Either for or in opposition, there's no one in line to speak against this proposal.
That's correct. There's no one else in the waiting room.
I've got a question for staff. Margaret, can you kind of clear us up on what the occupancy number is that's being requested, and also kind of explain the intricacies of the courtyard? It looks like there's
Yes.
kind of some shared property. I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around that.
Yeah, what we have, the building is roughly 57 by 45 feet, but there are 2 floors to the building. Mostly her bar that she have, even though there are 2 bars, one on the upstairs and downstairs, predominantly she's planning on doing the bar downstairs. And again, that's about a 57 by 47 feet area there. On the first floor, where you're looking at, let me see, with my arrow, is my arrow showing up on your screen?
No, it will not.
Okay. Once you come in off of Jackson Street, that's the entry to the building. Then you go to the back of the building, it opens up into a courtyard. And it's those dimensions that you see on this graph, on this detailed site plan. It has rails and all around it. It's pretty sizable, almost, about the size of the inside of the building there. And people spill over into it. It's wooden floor, deck, regular decking on the back there. There are lights back there as well. And that's what that courtyard is. There's plans to put the flowers around. There's a fountain there that needs to, that could be utilized. It's not on now. The water system on it is not on there. And off of the top floor, which is the same dimension as the bottom floor, on the second floor, there's a bar up there as well. There's a door that opens off of the top floor onto a balcony, and that balcony will walk down to the courtyard as well.
I have a question.
And Taylor, I think to answer another part of the first part of your question, the occupancy requested was 180, right? Or 170? Something?
If I may. Initially, I'm sorry. Initially, we had a plan and it was just for the indoor areas, the first and second floors. Well, because there is the outdoor area, and I apologize, because you have the outdoor courtyard area, that area also had to have a calculated occupancy load. So the total occupancy load for the outdoor area, as well as the 2 floors inside, based on the plan submitted, is 341.
Okay.
Building itself, just the building, is 262.
Okay.
It's mostly seating in there. I think it just.
Yeah, I think the inside. What is the maximum? I think y'all did an approval or suggested approval for a certain number, but that number would be within the parameters of the seating, both inside and outside.
The total 341 is because of the outdoor space in addition to the 2 floors inside.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and we have no objection to that. I mean, that's fine. That could be the limits in there.
We don't plan on doing it.
Margaret, I have another question. I know there's a grid and I can't see it on my screen, but I'm sure you'll have it in front of you on what's been approved. Is there any approvals of over 200 occupancy for this type of use off of Dolphin or a main street anywhere?
I do not have the, well, I do have a portion of the grid. Can the commission see this new map with the grid at the bottom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This map indicates all of the approvals for increased occupancy within the downtown development district. The site in question is here, 105 North Jackson. These shaded areas show the 3 entertainment districts as adopted by the city council. As you can see, for a pure bar, just as recently as the last planning commission meeting, an occupancy load of 286 was approved at 213 Contact.
So
You can also.
I have a question.
Yeah, we have
Yes, Al.
1,035.
What's the
Wait,
difference?
let me hear them.
Hold on, can we
Mr.
get
Moore,
Larry to mute?
could you mute yourself, please, Mr. Moore, while the commission's asking questions?
Yes, Larry Moore.
What is the difference between a lounge and a club?
A club, more so as Tag ran the club, there was I guess Thursday through Sunday, he would have crowds in there on the top floor, and there would be dancing continuously on those particular nights. And I think he was open from like 9 to, it's supposed to be like from 9 to 2. But that's people staying there in the club. They're not leaving the club. In the lounge, the people is traveling constantly. There is transitional. They're in there, they have a drink, they watch Alabama Auburn play, and they leave. They don't congregate there for hours at a time. So there's never an occasion, unless special events, like when they have a Mardi Gras or something, that there will even be a traffic situation. It is the normal flow of traffic, whereas the club, everybody's turning out at that certain period of time, and it's in masses.
Alan, to answer your question, legally, there's nothing different in our zoning ordinance between the two.
What, Mr. Morrow, what are your hours going to be?
Right now, they're anticipating Tuesday through Thursday between the hours of 2 to 3 in the afternoon when people are getting off of work up until maybe 10 or 11 at night. Everybody should have gone home to their families by that time there. But then on the weekends, that's different. And I think I'll let Ms. Gill address what she thinks for the weekend.
On the weekends, we'll be open around 12 noon on Saturday and Sunday until approximately 2 a.m. And on Fridays, we'll open on Sundays, we'll open from like 12 noon until approximately 10 p.m. Friday, we'll open from 2 or 3 until 2 a.m. And then on Saturdays, we'll open from 12 noon until 2 a.m.
But 2 a.m. is the cutoff. Only if people are there in the lounge at that time. If there's no one there, there's no need to be open. But if they are there, then they'll be up to 2. But 2 is the cutoff. Not that 4 o'clock. I have no idea where that came from and where they even got that they're going to be open until 4 o'clock in the morning.
Margaret. I have a question, Margaret.
Yes.
Are there any drawings? I mean, we keep showing a floor plan for that first floor. Are there any other drawings that were submitted that might have shown seating in there? As I see that, all I see is big, wide open spaces that makes me think that it's a bar. It's just a stand open space, not a place where somebody's going to sit. So I'm just curious if they, in their submittal documents, if they said anything that showed that where there might be seating and what have you. As I just do the look
The
at
art,
that.
What
if
you
you
have?
know, Mr. Moore, let me address the commission
ma'am.
question, please. If you'll notice on the plans, it's the fire. This was submitted for fire, and fire more or less has to show it as, or consider it as wide open space. So this is the absolute maximum occupant load that you would have in these 2 floors calculated for fire department capacity.
Just and doing a rough calculation of the square footage of what's there and looking at a third of it, looks like it's bathrooms. You couldn't squeeze that many people in there if you pushed them in there with a fire truck. It just wouldn't fit. That was my only question to Margaret.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from commissioners?
One more, just one more. Is there a food component with this plan?
Is there a business plan?
Food.
Food.
A food component.
No.
I have a question. There was a lot of emails and names listed as in opposition. Has the applicant met with a neighborhood group or any neighborhood groups and any details from those meetings, if they did happen?
That's what makes it interesting. I sent an email the last session that we had when we came before the board. I was given a number of individuals who had filed complaints. I contacted each one of them. I also sent an email to each one of them. I invited them to a meeting in my office, gave them a time that we're going to have it. And maybe about 3 or 4 people did show up at the meeting. After we discussed everything, I thought everything was fine because they said, we understand what your plan is now. We're going to contact the board and notify the board that we're withdrawing whatever objections we have. Now, some of those same individuals, by the letters and the emails we got yesterday, said that, oh, we would do, we didn't know, like being open to 4 o'clock in the morning, that it's going to be a grill and not just a lounge. We have not spoken to them as of those emails of yesterday, but all the other ones I sent them personally, and I think I CC'd the board, the letters that I sent to all of those persons who had complained. As of that day, prior to yesterday, there were no complaints. Everybody who passed by seemed to be in agreement with everything, but it looked like yesterday, whatever happened, looked like everybody came in some conglomeration and once again filed complaints, but none of them have appeared at this meeting. And they would pass by this lounge every day, and I see them, and they just smiling and all this hunky-dory. But for whatever reason yesterday, they put those complaints in. But we addressed all of those. But what I do think, in all fairness to them, some kind of way they think this suddenly had become a grill, and we told them what the hours of operation are going to be, and now they see hours 4 o'clock in the morning and so forth. And I think they felt like they had been misled. And I think that's the crux of what those objections were from yesterday, because without those 4 a.m. issues and grill and food items, they seem to have had no objections, period.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Margaret, this is Shirley Sessions. I hate to go back, but the chart that you had up previously, you mentioned that we had approved an application during the last meeting. And I just want to be sure if I'm familiar with, that's the one on Conti Street. That was for a rooftop. Am I correct?
That's correct. So instead of a courtyard in the back, it was a rooftop on top of the existing building.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, last call for any questions from commissioners. Item number 1 has been recommended for approval based on findings of fact. The floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, I'm sorry, if somebody wants to make a motion, I can make comment later.
Yeah, I'm making a motion to deny based on the high occupancy. I think in that area, just over 300 people in a bar that has no food component. It's just not in keeping with the development that's happening along the St. Louis corridor. That's my reasoning to recommend for denial.
There's a motion to deny.
Margaret, this is Doug. To make sure everybody understands, are they asking for the full 341 that's allowed by their square footage in their courtyard, or are they just asking for 178? I guess if my question is, if this motion is passed as is, would they be allowed to go up to 341?
They would be allowed to go up to 341, and that is per the fire code.
Okay.
That is how they based that occupancy load.
Okay, then I understand the motion. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor for denying. Is there a second? Without a second, the motion of denial does not pass.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a couple of observations.
Please go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so, I think that what has happened here, as I said in Cool Hand Luke, is a failure to communicate. And it's kind of an interesting situation. So, I got a couple calls about this yesterday, and they seem like, pretty reasonable comments about noise or about people in front of the establishment or something. And then when I woke up this morning, people were concerned that it was, they'd heard that the occupancy was going to be 700, and that this was going to be all kinds of things that I don't see anywhere in the application. So I think it didn't really connect until Larry just said maybe somebody got Kawana Gill confused with a grill. I think that's what happened, and so now there's the rumor mill has kind of churned this to the point that it's no longer reasonable. I think that there's a pretty easy path forward here where we don't disenfranchise too many people, hopefully no one, and also protect property owners nearby. And this is a suggestion. It's not uncommon for us to make sure there's no amplified sound outside of a building beyond a certain time. So I think we could probably do something like that. Taylor, I think we did that at Icebox. I don't remember if we did that or not, but it seems like a good parallel. And then we also have put in a note about making sure that people adhere to the noise ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's even within the realm of reality to just go ahead and put it in black and white that this place is not going to stay open past 2 a.m. period. To go ahead and allay the fears of some of the people that sent emails before. That way you just keep it in the rails altogether, so you don't have to worry about one person saying one thing and one person saying another. One of the things that kind of irritated me, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it. This is a comment from Jim Gilbert, and I don't know Jim Gilbert, but Jim said that concerned about the enforcement of existing laws flaunted and ignored, will not stand for it at all. It's a slap in the face of all that have changed the neighborhood for the better. They were all standing and drinking out of their car trunks, having a great time. Why is there no entertainment zones up on MLK Boulevard?
Yeah.
Only white areas? Smacks of racism to me. Wrong. So, I don't know how much of that is motivating this. It's kind of it's an unusual spirit of protest to approach a development that way. So I'm open to to modifications to that kind of scheme. It just seems like a good, easy middle path to me that it doesn't squash a small business idea, and it also protects the neighborhood. So I do have one question, Margaret, you might be able to answer. For me, something that another caller came up and said that their paperwork was behind. Are we missing some paperwork or some part of the application?
No, the only thing I can think of is when it initially came before the board at the July 15th meeting, we didn't have the plans with the occupancy load shown on them. And so the applicant provided that. And then we did for when the meeting came up again in August, it didn't have the occupancy calculations for the outdoor courtyard area, and they got that to us right before the meeting. And so that's the reason why that's how we arrived here today, is because of the staggering submission of the information. But we have all of the documentation at this point.
Matt, I appreciate your comments and do agree. Again, my motion for denial is simply based on this 300 plus occupancy number. If there are things that could be done to help with the sound and some sort of new plan to reduce that number, I think that's the driving force for the for the disruption in the neighborhood. Is simply that amount of people is a big a really large lounge. And I think if there was any way to cut in down into sub 200, I think it would fit in a kind of more neighborhood setting in which it's in.
Yeah. So,
Margaret, let me ask you this. If they're only asking for 178 by square footage, they're allowed 300 and something. We can still limit it by a motion that the maximum capacity be what they're asking for and no more, can't we? Or is that not really, that's a fire code enforcement thing they don't want to get into?
Can you rephrase the question? I want to make sure I understand.
They're asking in the application for 178 capacity. By square footage, you said by the fire department standards, based on the square footage, they could get up to 341 capacity.
Correct.
Can we, as a condition of approval, limit the capacity to the 178 they're asking for? Or is that not enforceable?
I think that is going to be very difficult to enforce because, you know, I think your intent is for the applicant to be approved for this plan that's been submitted, but at no point to ever have more than 170 something people in the building and in the courtyard. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Margaret, won't they end up with a placard though that says maximum occupancy, whatever, 340 or what? I mean, that's the trouble. That's what comes as a function of the fire department. So that's what dictates.
Yeah.
Just some more general comments. I concur with everything Mr. Anderson said, and probably most importantly, the first one about the failure to communicate. If I heard everything correctly, it sounds like the applicant and the subsequent neighbors never actually spoke to each other. They may have tried to communicate via email, but they never actually sat down face to face and talked to each other. And to me, I mean, as I think we all know, so much gets lost in translation there. And I think, as Mr. Anderson pointed out, it seems to be that the rumor mill has started going kind of awry. I would be inclined, if it's appropriate, to make a motion that this be laid over maybe to the next meeting to afford the applicant that opportunity to meet with those neighbors, the people that are going to be hopefully her customers, and to have that conversation where she can clear the air, they can clear their concerns, and then maybe if there are some constraints that need to be put on it, that she bring that back to us in a voluntary manner, such that everybody can coexist and work and prosper in harmony. I don't know if that's something that can be considered, if that's a path forward that the commission might want to consider.
If I may
second that motion, if that's a motion.
If I may comment, I've talked to the individuals.
No, you actually, no, you can't comment.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My apology.
No, you're okay. I'll second that motion, Nick, if that was a motion.
That's a motion to lay it over to the next meeting to give the applicant time to have a face-to-face meeting, you know, with the conglomerate that may have voiced some concerns, and then try to bring back to us what the results of that are. I think we're all want to find a way to make it work and help it to not close the door, but it does seem like there's enough opposition to it that we need to give it some time for it to percolate a little bit.
We have a motion on the floor from Mr. Omberger and a second from Mr. Anderson. Any further comment? All in favor of the holdover until the next meeting for recommendation of community meeting on 105 North Jackson Street? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
So that was one opposition and the rest in favor. The motion passes. Moving on to item number 2, where our current chair is also recused. Item number 2, let me scroll to it. 265 and 267 Dolphin Street. Item number 2, Box Out LLC, Artius Walker, agent. Recommend for approval. Margaret, turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have entered Mr. Artius Walker into the meeting. He has submitted a revised application. We have received no comments in opposition or support or concern regarding the application, but Mr. Walker is here in the meeting and available to answer any questions.
Hey, good afternoon.
Go ahead, Mr. Walker. You have the floor for any brief comments.
Hey, thank you. So Box Out, as the plans and the description tells, is essentially it's a container park that would provide 5 local small restaurateurs an opportunity to lease out one of these containers and operate in the most densely work populated, densely toured area of Mobile County. And so in the plans, you see the courtyard area, the little, the rectangle shapes are the containers. We did consider going with actual shipping containers, but there's some design constraints with only an 8-foot width. Typically a kitchen would want to be a little bit wider. And so we're actually going with they're called Sept containers. They're made out of a magnesium oxide board, which is has a negative footprint in the concern of carbon footprint. It's also extremely efficient, fire resistant, water resistant, insulated. It's pretty neat stuff. The inside courtyard, the inside building area, the first floor of it, as you can see on the drawings, the back, essentially third of it is consumed with restrooms, mechanical area, storage area. The front part is, there's a couple of openings in the wall that allow pass through from the courtyard area to the inside of the building, as well as a bar set up there. The holdover last time, we had to make some clarifications on I think one of my drawings had event area. I'm thinking event in the sense of Miss Best upcoming retirement. If she wants to, have some people push some tables together, they're more than welcome to do so. But that area right there is indoor seating for the 5 eateries that's in the courtyard area. The 6th one that's out there, the park will own. It'll be like a daiquiri, a cocktail shop, something, a beverage station or sort. But the inside area, it'll be filled with tables, chairs, maybe some booths. Just the whole purpose of it is to serve as essentially a food court for the downtown area.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, Ms. Pappas, is there anyone else that's been admitted to the meeting since Mr. Walker started, either for or against 265 and 267 Dolphin Street?
No, sir.
With no further comments, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations adopting findings of facts A, B, and C.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes for item number 2.
Hey,
Thank you.
what occupancy did we just approve?
$546.
546. Okay, got it. Just curious.
I'll turn my chair duties back over to the original chairman, Mr. Carlos. Take it away.
Good job, Jay.
Thanks. Well, Carlos, are you there?
I'm here. I was getting my sheet up.
Item number
Next
3.
up, extensions, item number 3, East Terminus of Lighton Place, Lighton Village subdivision. It's requesting a 1-year extension, recommended for approval. Is the applicant admitted?
No, sir, the applicant is not here, but they had no problems with the recommendation of approval. If you do note within the report, the PUD had expired, but they have submitted that extension. It'll be up on a future agenda.
Marvin, I'll add, this is actually physically under construction right now. The street's about halfway built.
Okay.
The reason for the extension, though, is because the plat has not been recorded yet.
All right. Are there any questions by commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
So moved.
Staff recommendation. Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes. Item passed. Item number 4, 850 Edward Street, Africatown Heritage House subdivision. 1-year extension being requested. It's recommended for approval. Is that applicant present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and for the record, I believe Ms. Sessions is recusing on this one. And I have admitted into the meeting Mr. John Adams with Mobile County. The application is recommended for approval and he is available if the commission has any questions.
Are there any questions by commissioners about this application? Is there any information, additional information the applicant wants to bring forth?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, this is John Adams. I'm a Mobile County staff attorney. We are requesting the extension for the purpose of finalizing our subdivision plat. And we do expect that we will be able to get that completed fairly soon. We would just request your indulgence for a little bit more time to complete that, and that's the reason for the extension.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions by commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion concerning this?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second that the 1-year extension be approved. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes. Moving to item number 5, new subdivision applications. 6253 Biscayne Circle, Rook subdivision, recommended for approval. Is the applicant present?
They were, there he is. Sorry. Mr. Chairman, I've just entered Gerald Smith into the meeting. Mr. Smith, can you hear us? He's connecting to audio. While he's connecting, I will advise that we have received no correspondence in opposition or concern regarding this application. Mr. Smith, or can you hear us now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're in
Good
the
deal.
meeting now.
Thank you, sir. Your current application is recommended for approval. Do you have any additional information that you wanted to present to the board, the commission?
That's all. He's willing to comply. As soon as we get approval, he's going to apply for a permit to demolish that shed.
Okay. Any questions by commissioners? Hearing none, I close the public session. This application for us is recommended for approval. Is there a motion?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item pass. Thank you, sir. Moving to item number 6, 315 and 317 Morgan Avenue, Esplanade Estate subdivision. It's recommended for approval. Has the applicant been admitted?
Yes, I've just admitted Julius Wall into the meeting. Can you hear us, Mr. Wall?
Yeah, I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Your application is before us, is recommended for approval. Have you had a chance to read the staff comments, and do you have any concern?
I have read them and I don't have any concerns.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from commissioners?
I do not have any questions.
Is there anybody else here to speak for or against this, Margaret?
No, sir.
Hearing none, that we close public hearing session. This application is recommended for approval. Is there a motion?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Item passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 7, 358 Gulfwood Drive. Lila's Place subdivisions recommended for approval. Has the applicant been admitted?
Yes, I just admitted into the meeting Miss Louise Houston. Miss Houston, can you hear us? She's connecting to audio. While it's connecting, I should bring to the attention of the commission, you received 2 emails, both in support of this application. Those were sent to you probably first thing this morning or late yesterday afternoon from one of our staff members, Ms. York. Ms. Houston, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, all yours now.
All right, thank you. Your application is recommended for approval, subject to staff recommendations. Do you have any additional information you wish to provide or comments you wish to make?
Just if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I don't think what we're asking is out of the question if there are numerous other lots in the neighborhood this size or even smaller. Now, we're not going to do anything in the immediate future, but I mean, immediately, but just one day would like to be able to build 2 houses there and knock down the house that's currently there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by commissioners? Margaret, is there anybody else here to speak for or against?
No, sir.
All right, we close public hearing and enter into deliberation. The item before us recommended for approval. Is there a motion?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passed. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Moving to new planning approvals, item number 8, 800 Mobile Street, Gethsemane Cemetery. It's recommended for approval. Applicant present. Thank you.
I've admitted Zeke Hudson into the meeting, representing the applicant. Mr. Hudson, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay.
Your application is before us, is recommended for approval. Do you have any additional questions or comments that you want to present to the commission?
I do not, and we are in agreement with staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Hearing none. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this, Margaret?
No, sir.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. Item number 8, recommended for approval with findings of fact. Is there a motion?
Move to
approve. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts A, B, and C.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passed. Group applications. Item number 9, 1490 Telegraph Road, subdivision and zoning, both recommended for approval. Is the applicant been admitted?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant, Mr. Hudson is here to represent. I also need to draw to the commission's attention that you received an email from staff regarding concerns from Mobile Environmental Justice Action Committee. We also have admitted into the meeting Glela Lowe, Joe Womack, and Ramsey Sprague.
Thank you. Your item is before us. Both sections are recommended for tentative approval. Does the applicant have any information that they want to add to this?
Yes, sir, if I could. The reason for the intended 1-lot subdivision is to try to, and the rezoning is to bring the property back into its, into conformity with the surrounding properties. It's my understanding from my client that this property has been used for an industrial purpose since the 60s. I don't know if Margaret was able to receive it, but I did send in an affidavit that was showing it had been in non-compliance before zoning came into effect. At the moment, there's no tenant on the property and there's no pending sale. My client just wishes to try to get the zoning cleaned up on it so it does match. It is in harmony with the surrounding or adjacent property. That's the only comments I have.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Is there anybody here to speak for or against this, Margaret?
Yes, I've admitted Lela Lowe, Joe Womack, and Ramsey Sprague.
Okay. Are they in opposition or support?
Opposition.
Okay. You can admit it. You have 5 minutes, each of you, to speak. I guess we would say Mr. Sprague, I believe.
Yes, I'm here. I can begin.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ramsey Sprague. I'm the president of the Mobile Environmental Justice Action Coalition, also known as MEJAC. MEJAC was founded 8 years ago to this month by Africatown residents in partnership with Africatown residential stakeholders and regional advocates to address environmental justice concerns as requested in that and other communities across the Mobile region. I'm speaking today to appeal to a sense of reason about best practice implementation, with particular focus on longstanding and well-documented concerns and recommendations shared by the city, as well as Africatown residents, stakeholders, and advocates, including those who have been serving on as members of my organization's 501c3 board since its inception. To begin, MEJAC has no principled objection to the applicant's subdivision request. However, MEJAC has been raising concerns about the nature of this particular property to City of Mobile planning since early 2019 in response to the then proposed Unified Development Code version 2. MEJAC identified a number of non-conforming uses within the Africatown planning area like this property and provided thorough documentation to the planning department about them, including current zoning, the manners in which the then current occupants or lack of occupants appeared to be a non-conforming use, and recommended courses of action for each relevant parcel or tract of land. As we wrote then, due to the erosion that has been perpetrated upon the residential integrity of the Africatown community, any loss of land zoned as residential makes many uncomfortable regardless of reason. We added that neighborhood meetings similar to what is prescribed in the UDC's procedures section might be prudent. A meeting of this nature would help usher the Africatown community closer to the more equitable and inclusive future envisioned by the Africatown Neighborhood Plan, we said then. Though MEJAC and our partners have specific concerns with aspects of the UDC, it enjoys a lot of support, including from the administration and this body. That includes the neighborhood meeting standards described therein, which MEJAC has repeatedly supported in writing in every UDC public comment opportunity since 2019. While it is not currently the law of the land, the fact of its passage by this body should inform how proposed zoning designations, redesignations brought for planning approval are considered. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has made everything harder on everyone, but even many elders have mastered joining virtual meetings by phone. So the lack of safe in-person meeting capacity is not a good excuse for zero communication and transparency to a community that is otherwise very eager to understand exactly what developers like this applicant are wanting out of their neighborhood before these sorts of adversarial public hearings happen. On the specific merits of this application, it appears that the applicant and staff believe that simply possessing a structure and non-conforming use justifies seeking the city's most permissive land use designation available. MEJAC disagrees. There's also residential properties immediately adjacent to this property too, across the street, which are in the city of Mobile. MEJAC believes that ideally zoning should fit like a glove in terms of the owner's interests and their obligations to their neighbors. Without transparency about the use of the property, a rezoning to an I2 designation from an R1 is at best inappropriate, and the UDC would appear to agree. The UDC's commercial warehouse designation would, we believe in theory, more than justify the current non-conforming use, that of a vacant warehouse. Considering the property's most recent occupants, which MEJAC also described in 2019 to planning, Turbo Filtration Company provided at the site what their website described as industrial cleaning services with on-site instrument fabrication capacity. It's arguable with that description that even their non-conforming use wouldn't have been best contained within an I2 designation, but an I1. but perhaps even something less permissive would have been best. Certainly, a number of properties within the Africatown planning area are overzoned for their uses, which is a serious concern for residents, some residents. But
1 minute.
regardless, MEJAG doesn't see in the application any justification for an I2 or I1 designation. A neighborhood meeting may illuminate why such a designation is justifiable, but the applicant just stated they're simply trying to become in conformity with their surroundings. We will note, again, there are residential properties immediately across the street adjacent to this site. For all those reasons, MEJAG requests a hold over the application until any such meeting can be arranged so there's transparency and communication. A decade's worth of official City of Mobile documents describe the need for Africatown to be equipped with enough information to independently review zoning and development proposals in their communities before adversarial public hearings. This application is a great opportunity to implement the aspirational best practices described so many times before and supported by this body. We can and want to do better, but that can only happen if residents, stakeholders, and developers are working together and communicating. We hope for a better process. Thank you for your consideration.
If I may ask you a question of Mr. Sprague, this is Doug Anderson, the council's attorney, commission's attorney, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
What is it that you, without all the, you made a great presentation, without all the flowery language, what is it exactly that you want to discuss with the applicant and what do you want to achieve in meeting with them, considering that this property has been used for industrial for 60 some odd years?
Well, that's the applicant's assertion. I haven't seen those documents that assert that, Mr. Anderson. I appreciate your question. The community doesn't want to see any more erosion of residentially zoned properties. Certainly, we don't believe that there should be any erosion of residentially zoned properties without clear communication with the community and consultation. It doesn't make sense to me as an individual to think that we should give the most permissive zoning available to this property when there isn't a proposed use yet. To me, also, we have an opportunity to wait until after the UDC is heard to get a better zoning designation for that property's current use, which is a vacant warehouse. A commercial warehouse designation would be much less permissive than I2. Even their most, their surrounding properties, you have I1, yes, to the north, you have I2 to the east and west, you also have R1 immediately to the west. So coming into, some harmony with what is around them, that's an arguable position.
Do you believe that this property can be used as residential purposes?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But what I see is an opportunity for the Planning Commission and this applicant to take the higher road and find another designation that would fit better than an I2, certainly. Others might disagree.
Thank you.
Any other questions by commissioners?
Just, I have a comment for the staff. If an aerial photo view is available of this, I don't know if you can show one. If you have one that's available, I think that might better help us to understand exactly what we're looking at.
Yes, while the speakers are speaking, I'll see what I can get pulled up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Margaret, who else is admitted to speak?
Mr. Joe Womack and Ms. Lella Love.
Ms. Layla Love, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Lella Lowe, and I am a friend of the Africatown community. The Africatown community is probably the best example of an environmental justice community in the Mobile area. As I'm sure you're aware, the area was settled by people brought to Mobile illegally in the 1860s. And that settlement was quickly followed within decades by an explosion of industrial development that ended up surrounding that community and proved to be toxic to the air and water of the area. And that contributes to health problems that persist to this day. So given that situation, I made comments at the UDC hearing in June of this year, asking that they start to address the long-term cumulative impacts of neighboring pollution on this vulnerable community with a few simple changes to the proposed UDC that includes allowing unused industrial areas to be downzoned. This issue before the Planning Commission today accomplishes the exact opposite. Based on the limited amount of information that is available about the rationale for this huge upzoning request for a parcel that is currently simply a vacant commercial warehouse, I suggest that the rezoning as it is currently proposed be denied. As Africatown reimagines and restructures itself as an African American cultural heritage site and destination, this is simply not the time to burden the neighboring community with the potential for additional heavy industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by commissioners? Thank you.
Mr. Joe Womack's the last speaker.
Okay, Mr. Womack, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm retired Marine Major Joe Womack, Africatown native. And what I have in my hand is a copy of the Africatown plan done in 2017. And in this plan, one thing it calls for is the collaboration between the city, the residents, and any interested parties, especially business people, to come together and agree and look at the sites that are out of zoning compliance within the city, within the Africatown community. Africatown is the only community in the city of Mobile with out of zone compliance that exists in many areas. We have houses and industrial sites. We have industrial sites and residential sites, and we need to get it cleaned up all at one time. This could be just the tip of the iceberg right here. You could have multiple requests over the next 10 months, once a week, just to change the various sites. I suggest, and we suggest, that we have a collaborative meeting and talk about it all at one time at a once fell swoop and get it changed. If you don't have the sites that if you all don't have the sites that are out of compliance, we do. We have done the investigation. We have the sites that are out of compliance, and we can help do this thing all at one fell swoop and agree and get it out of the way at one time without having to come back every time someone wants to rezone something. You all know and have experienced in the past where they've tried to rezone stuff that shouldn't be rezoned in favor of the industrial sites. So this is a great opportunity for us all to come together. And I'm asking that we delay or deny this request until we all come together as the Africatown plan suggests. We see some fallacies in the new upcoming UDC plan where we could wake up one morning and an industrial site can be right next to our home if need be, if they wanted to. And this is a perfect example here. You're trying to get it rezoned without having a meeting with the residents, and that's part of the thing that the city has always done. So meet with the resident before you get it done. I know from experience walking up and down that street for years when I was a teenager and a kid, there was always industry around there. And to have this zone residential, see, this is something that was just set in there without any prior planning. It's time to get into the 21st century, people. We need to have a meeting, look at every site that's out of compliance and take care of them right now, rather than piecemealing this thing and having people trying to get stuff zoned and rezoned and us fighting and you all kicking. And let's get this thing redone. We got to get this thing redone and done right before we start out what we call our tourism business. And we know that we can do a good job because we've seen it done in Montgomery. And so this is something that we have to correct, not only for the Africatown community, but for the city of Mobile and the state of Alabama. And it's a great time now, while, you know, the industry is admitting this thing is not zoned properly. We've been saying it for years, and now they're saying it. So there are more properties. If you don't know, people, there are more properties that have to be corrected, and let's get it corrected now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from commissioners? Hearing none, the applicant has an opportunity to respond if they so choose.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Again, this property's been used for industrial use and manufacturing for over 60 years. We don't feel that it is, you know, how it became residential to begin with. I'm a little unsure of, but it is zoned that way now. And the whole intent of this, again, was to just try to bring it into conformity with what's really surrounding it, which is industrial. Again, also, you know, as far as meeting with the people, at this time, there's no tenant and there's no pending sale. So I'm not sure exactly what the plan is for someone to come in there. You know, obviously, my client wants to sell this property at some point, and the idea is to try to bring it up to what it's always been used for from a zoning perspective. So that's the only thing I have to add.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
This is Joe Womack. Can I answer a question?
No, sir. We can't hear from you anymore. We can only hear from the commission at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just add a comment just in generality. Well, first thank the staff for showing an aerial photo of the site proper, but I pulled up on my phone the bigger picture aerial photo, and I don't know if other commissioners can do that if they have the ability to either a phone or another tab on their computer. I think it kind of speaks volumes when you look at it. You know, all the blocks to the north, all the blocks to the west, you know, are similar big warehouse type situations. To the south, well, yeah, there you go. South, it's a railroad track. I mean, there's just not any chance of that ever becoming a residential area. I don't think it didn't look like it was ever intended to be. You know, I certainly appreciate the folks that are voice their concerns about it, but I think the aerial photo of what it's surrounded by, railroad tracks, other larger, you know, industrial type activities, I really think it speaks volume as to what it really is, and how it ever became zoned R1 is just, I mean, that doesn't seem like it ever should have been.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Nick. I do appreciate the speakers, and I do want to kind of mention that rezoning before this commission, you know, we can look at the property issues and things of that nature. Some of the greater issues that have been raised up, I believe will probably be more in play as this goes to city council for review. We simply make recommendations on zoning to the city council, and that's kind of the nature of this commission as far as rezonings go. I just want to be kind of clear to the people that spoke in opposition of that.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you. That closes our public hearing session. The item is before us. We'll take it in two parts. Part A, the subdivision request. Is there a motion?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendation.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor for the subdivision portion?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Item passed. Item number B, zoning from R1 to I2. Is there a motion?
Move to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passed. Zoning recommendation passes. Thank you, sir. And thank you to the people who came to speak as well on this issue. That concludes all of our items. Is there any old or new business from staff that?
Not at this time.
Okay, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.